data scientist and CEO of Out and Out Limited. His name is James Olanrewaju Awojobi. It's good to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You sound really very amazing. You look really very nice. And of course,
interesting.
For those who want to see what I'm talking about, please visit the Super FM YouTube page at Super FM Lagos and watch this live stream. Of course, if you also want to catch a repeat broadcast or you want to tell a friend who might need some of the information we're about to share, who might need it, you can tell them to catch a repeat broadcast on the YouTube page at Super FM Lagos. Okay, so it's good to have you in the studio again.
Thank you.
So let's talk about how long you've been in the tech space and how the evolution has come about before we get to where you are today in the field.
All right, I've been in the tech space for, let's just put it at about 10 years now. And it's been a journey from managing certain processes that then evolved into automating those processes and seeing businesses grow. So pretty much my background has been from a strategy, sales strategy, business strategy point of view, but over time realizing that digital transformation was becoming a thing, we decided to move into that space, and that's when we started looking at automating processes, looking at things differently, and then I went deep dive, into technology, pretty much the data science part of things and the business analytics part of things.
Okay, so and it's beautiful to see that your background wasn't even first in computer science or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So you had to, you saw an opportunity and then you had to build on it, because we've had multiple conversations spreading around the social media space and spreading around, of course, general media, where people are talking about the fact that AI and tech will replace human effort to the large extent and will make a lot of people maybe quote unquote vestigial. And there's a raging fear. People are starting to say, oh my God, am I going to survive in this future of work? Is work going to move from where I am now relevant to a place where I probably would not be needed in my field? And today, I love the fact that you talked about the fact you were doing something the manual and, can I say residual way? You were doing it the normal way.
It was manual, yes.
Yeah, it was the manual processes. And then you brought that into what you do today, which is why Out and Out is a brand today, and which is why we can discuss AI and we can discuss AI in finance, discuss automation, discuss ROBO-ADVISORS and predictive analytics, which means we're looking at how data and the data that exist or are hidden in your business can be the reason your business is a worldwide nominated brand.
Absolutely.
That's what we're about to talk about. So let's how do you see AI transforming the finance industry in the next 5 years? Let's start from there.
Okay, AI, artificial intelligence, is not just about the finance space. It is, over the past 5-7 years, of course, before, there's been a lot of work in that tech space, right, to redefine the space and to ensure the work is done in a faster way, in a better way, and much more in a predictive way, in a way that is inclusive, that brings everybody in without the stress of, it's exclusivity of those who just have the IT knowledge. So AI has been there, albeit in the background. But of course, in the past 5 years, it's become really prominent, and it's gone into the mainstream of industry sectors, not just finance, right? But if we begin to narrow down to industry spaces, then when we pick finance, for instance, we see that there is less of human interaction. Now, don't forget that artificial intelligence, simply put, is a technology that mimics human intelligence to be able to interact over a lot of processes using data. And so you're building data behind that with a lot of algorithms. So that way you have consistent results and predictive results that can be used. So if you bring it into finance, first, you see today, a lot of people do not even want to go into the banking halls anymore.
I don't want to go into banking halls.
Even the banks do not want you to come into the banks anymore. Why? Because it will reduce their cost. So
Yeah.
what AI is doing is, one, to help processes run faster
Okay.
and more accurately using the data that you feed to it. So you have data, you want customer experience to grow and to improve
Yeah.
using artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
and less of human
effort.
interactions and effort. Yes, you would require a lot of human participation, human involvement in building the data and in training those
The algorithms,
to
yeah.
be able to give what it is. So it's been across the industry space and it's growing massively. And of course, you talked about robot. I mean, we'll get into robo-advisors
Robots,
and all
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
But today, it is a massive thing. Artificial intelligence is changing the landscape in finance, in healthcare, every industry sector.
Everywhere basically, and we're seeing how all of these indices are fitting into the future of work as we know it now. Would it be rightly said that if humans fear this change, are those fears rightly placed? Are those fears valid? Will I ever get to the point where my effort, even though yes we understand that human beings still need to feed the data, they still need to train these robots and the algorithms, they still need to check the mathematics from time to time to see to it that we're not, that error parallax will not cause everything to implode at some point.
Sure.
Let's talk about these fears and how humans can necessarily still be involved and be bankable in all of these processes.
Okay, good. The first thing, let's establish this. One, AI hasn't come to take our jobs away. AI, artificial intelligence, new technology has not come to take our jobs away. What would happen is those who do not know how to leverage artificial intelligence, they will not have any work to do. But those who know how to leverage artificial intelligence will be able to work a lot better. So AI hasn't come. That fear is valid, yes. It is valid because it means that you're required to upskill, you're required to reskill if possible. So you're able to understand how artificial intelligence helps you to work in a better, faster way.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, hold that thought. Let's quickly get to this break. When we come back from that break, of course, we'll be continuing with the conversation. And if you have a question you want to ask about the artificial intelligence and the space, the digital space, and how the world of work is evolving, and how you can leverage where you are into this particular economy, you can actually send a message while we're on the break. 0705 6900927. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Super FM 92.7. The world is full of wickedness, far beyond what the eyes can see. But you shall decree a thing, and it shall come to pass. Divine Appointment Ministry International presents a night of war against satanic manipulations. Are you feeling down, physically, spiritually, or emotionally? Is your family bound in chains? Is your marriage, finance under attack? The devil has no mercy. It's time to fight. It's time to recover all. Come join force with the anointed servant of God, the apostle of war against satanic manipulations, the Jesus soldier, Reverend Ben A. Rabbi, in a powerful night of war against satanic manipulations. Date Friday 21st February 2025. Time 7 p.m. Venue National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos. Come and witness the raw power of God. War against satanic manipulations.
Join me at National Stadium because it is war against satanic manipulation.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead
spaces that don't exist, paradigm shifts from paper, from the analog to the digital. To the fact where sales and sales personnel, someone who was immersed in sales for years, could eventually evolve as someone who is leading in the world of data analytics. And this is talking about mine, where you're looking inside of this data and you're finding new possibilities. There's a saying that if you look into your data deeply enough, you will find a gold mine that your company can survive on for years. So, okay, yes, you agree. Thank you very much. But then, okay, so let's talk about two things. You know, we're talking about the AI infusion into work, and like how AI is changing the narrative, how people could leverage AI. You talked about something. You said AI will not take a job. It's just the fact that you need to evolve to the place where you're using AI to make work easier.
Absolutely.
So there's machine training, there's data collection, there's data analytics. There are so many ways in which human beings can benefit from the world of tech as it exists today. Now, let's talk about, since we're still touching the financial aspect of things, that's where we're starting this conversation. Can we talk a little bit about fraud detection and the use of AI? Let's maybe dabble into it for a little bit.
Okay, interesting. It's quite interesting. And AI there are a lot of algorithms that are being trained or being built, so to speak, to detect fraud. And again, there are different sides to AI. So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, and then a subset of machine learning is deep learning. All right, so you have neural networks and a lot of things, large language models and all of that. Now, what is happening is that enough data is now being collected and trained to look at how the trend of how fraud happens. And the data is being collected over large data, over different scenarios for a long period of time and events. Now, to train these algorithms to identify first a trend, or to be able to determine a trend. How will this fraud happen? Why will the fraud happen? All right. So when it's being trained, then it begins to give predictive analytics to say, because XYZ happened in the past, in this way, there is a likelihood
that this pattern
will be sustained in this environment. Now, don't forget that human wisdom is critical here, and humans will always want to beat the system we see. Right. So a lot of data is being collected, and that's why when you travel at the airports, you don't know, but there are a lot of robots everywhere picking nuances, picking movements, picking a lot of things.
Verbal and non-verbal cues.
Verbal and non-verbal cues, because these things are now really important to be able to determine. And so when we narrow down to fraud detection, yes, artificial intelligence models are being built to crawl. A lot of robots are being built to crawl on documents, bank documents, audit. And now in the audit space, you now have some bit of artificial intelligence going on in there to look at numbers, to think through numbers, to look at the variances in numbers and how it's supposed to be against how the numbers are looking. Again, a lot of bots are built across even government books to look at the pattern, first to establish a pattern. And once the pattern is established, it begins to look at those patterns against, what is meant to be the right and what's meant to be the wrong pattern. So for instance, someone is meant to have a flow. There's a process flow, right? To say, I want to purchase something or I want to buy something online. There's usually a process flow, either given by whoever is selling that, the retailer, the wholesaler, whoever, the vendor. There's always a flow. And then these algorithms understand the flow. Now, when you try to work against the flow of the process, or the process flow in which to buy whether to buy something or whether to make a transaction, a financial transaction. These bots are trained to identify that there's a deviation, and then it's able to either stop you or flag you. And that's why sometimes when you're using your card in some environments, when you're using your card goes through a check, an automatic check. It's in microseconds. I mean, way lower than microseconds. If I may say,
it's like,
the bots run so quickly to determine if your card is valid, where the card is from, And if you can make that purchase,
if it's been flagged
if
for
it's
fraud
been
in the
flagged
past,
from fraud in the past, all of those things are happening right now. And it is helping a lot of businesses to put sanity and to wade off. Don't forget, you still have that war with hackers. A lot of people working day and night who understand these languages, who understand how artificial intelligence works, who understand how automation works. They are still trying to also crack. And that's the bad way.
No, so it's beautiful. It's beautiful that you just talked about the fact that there are people, individuals, are actually also working actively to undermine these systems.
Absolutely.
And cut away people's livelihoods. But then it's beautiful to know that there are bots in place that are mitigating this as well. Now let's talk about the use of AI as a form of to propagate fraud as well, because like we understand that there's always a good side to things, and sometimes the negatives weigh in as well. There's always two sides to a story.
Yes.
So while we've talked about how intricate these details are, how painstaking the data scientists and the builders of this technology have worked, let's also talk about, on the other hand, how this has been used to perpetrate fraud or even push the numbers a bit. Let's talk about
Absolutely. One big challenge with artificial intelligence across the globe today, in Europe, in America, there's been a huge challenge with looking to have a sort of a governance or a governance structure around the adoption of artificial intelligence in certain areas of industry or governance generally. And it is because there is this big issue of ethical bias, right? Because someone could decide to build an algorithm or to build an artificial intelligence product, so to speak, in a way that is not positive, in a negative way. So, for instance, there are a number of AI platforms online, and you could decide to go there and say, oh, I need a man who is working hard, for instance, who works very hard.
Yeah, so you write the prompt?
You put the prompt there, and guess what? It gives you a black African male probably tilling the soil or pushing a truck or doing something funny. And the question is, why must he be an African man who is, or a black individual, black, who is doing that? That is even on a very soft side. So there are a lot of things that people are doing with artificial intelligence today to push their own selfish agenda.
Okay.
And these selfish agenda could impact what government is trying to do, could impact the technology space itself. Right? If you look at movies, you've seen various sci-fi movies where you see how there is always a one bad group or one bad person who is trying to cause a problem in the world using
artificial intelligence or technology. Yes.
Do you understand? So
Definitely.
that is a big challenge today globally. Let's not even come to Africa because we're still a bit behind in the adoption. Forget all the AI tools you see. Those are tools, right? There are many AI tools that we see today. People talk of Gemini, talk of DeepSeek,
the variants and
there are many of those, right? But on a deeper and a wider scale, we are still challenged with building a governance structure around the use of AI, ethical use of AI.
Since you mentioned ethical uses, and of course this is an episode I would have to pick up another time to build upon it, because this is like reached the surface as far as I'm concerned.
We're just picking it from here and there.
Yeah, we're picking from here and there, and because they all link one way or the other. Now we've talked about fraud, we've talked about finances, we've talked about this being a model that could be used to set things straight. Are there regulators or regulations that exist worldwide to see to it that there are checks and balances in the use of AI? Because we've seen people come out to refute, people have been swindled using the tool of AI, maybe for imagery or even videos that people have done, and they've been able to, and people are not, there are conversations around the deep fakes, sensitization about how to recognize the deep fake when people are putting things out there, because these things have led to breach in security in people's finances and the likes. But then, are there regulatory bodies that are seeking to help or to mitigate and put a stop guard to the use of these same technology to, quote unquote, destroy human life?
Interesting. So, like I began to say earlier, AI regulations different. You can't pinpoint to say, oh, there's this particular regulation, that exists. But I know that there are AI regulations in North America. The EU is working on a lot of regulations to see that there's a centralized approach to how.
In fact, Modi and Macron had a meeting just a few hours ago talking about this. The fact that China and America are running away with the entire industry.
Exactly. So again, don't forget that it's still AI also, or technology generally, is also seen as some kind of a battle or tussle ground for big economies, right? And everybody is just being on the watch to understand what will this other guy, this superpower, do using technology. So everyone is careful, and that's why the EU, the different agencies of government, especially in Europe and America, I really have not done a lot of work around what the African Union is doing around regulations of AI. But I know that there is an AI regulation in North America. The EU is putting regulations together on the use of artificial intelligence to guide the adoption, to guide the proliferation of the use of AI.
Well, thank you so much for making time to be here today. Time's fast spent. Like, we're right there on the hour, just behind the hours, a couple of minutes behind the 11 o'clock hour. But then this has been an insightful conversation to have, talking about the use of AI in and data and analytics and even robotics. We didn't even touch robotics at all.
We've not even gone into analytics per se. We didn't talk about predictive analytics.
Oh, wow.
We just tried to give like an intro, just to pick it here and there.
Definitely. But then we'll be doing another broadcast soon. Hopefully you will be able to make out time for us to have this conversation and build on the knowledge that we have put out today. But then I must say thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so that's the size of the conversation. If we would like to find you on Instagram and the other platforms, social media platforms, how can we find you? And the listener, how can we essentially find you on social media?
Okay, on social media, I'm James Decent, at James Decent. That's Instagram, that is Twitter, James Decent. That's where you see me. LinkedIn, James Awojabi is where you find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, so that you have right there.